Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update. And Spain's controversial new housing law has been given the okay by the Council of Ministers and is now being sent to the Parliament for approval. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation or by buying me a beer or a coffee. Many thanks for that. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, let's get into the news. And as I said, Spain's controversial new housing law is on its way to Parliament for approval. As we can see here, the government sends the housing law to Congress. It's not against landlords, but against speculation, it says. 1 year after the partners in government officially began negotiating the draft bill on the right to housing, the Council of Ministers approved the text this Tuesday in the second round and sent it to Congress to begin its processing as an emergency bill, a negotiation that is expected to be long and complicated as it still does not have sufficient support for its validation. Transport Minister Raquel Sanchez stressed that the law is rigorous, solid, compact and cross-cutting, and that it protects the social function of housing. Furthermore, she stressed that it is not against owners, but against speculation. Those who advocate liberalisation, the only thing they have achieved is the profit of large real estate agents and economic groups, causing great suffering to the majority of families in this country, she criticised. So the new housing law on its way to Congress for approval, but it's not going to be easy because not everybody agrees with what's in this new law. And if it is passed, it'll be bad news for the big property owners here in Spain, especially those international hedge funds. Now, Spain's own COVID vaccine is back in the headlines, and the Spanish Medicines Agency authorises the last phase of the Spanish COVID vaccine, IPRA. The Spanish Medicines Agency has authorised phase 3 clinical trials of the Spanish vaccine IPRA against COVID-19, as confirmed by RTVE. This phase will involve approximately 3,000 volunteers over 16 years of age, in which the safety and efficacy of the vaccine will be tested as a booster dose for other primary vaccination regimens that include different combinations. This is the first step before submitting an application for authorization to the European Medicines Agency. The clinical trial will be conducted in 20 hospitals, 17 in Spain, 2 in Portugal and 1 in Italy. Patients included in the trial will be followed for 52 weeks until the end of the trial, although data relevant to the study objectives will be obtained in a shorter period of time. So there we go. It looks as though the Spanish COVID vaccine IPRA will be ready sometime this year. Now, the mandatory use of face masks outdoors was voted on in Parliament here in Spain yesterday, and Spain maintains compulsory face masks outdoors, with criticism from all political groups. The coalition government once again succeeded on Tuesday in a move it has already repeated several times this term, and which is beginning to annoy its usual partners and infuriate the opposition. The Congress of Deputies gave the green light in extremis and by a simple majority to the Royal Decree law that makes the use of face masks compulsory outdoors, a text in which the government also introduces the update of non-contributory, minimum and widowhood pensions according to the CPI. Most European countries have already abolished the compulsory use of face masks in the open air. This decree was not only criticised by most of the political parties in the lower house for being scientifically unfounded, they say, but also by introducing other elements that are difficult to oppose, such as higher pensions or the recruitment of health workers. They consider it to be blackmail. And it's not only political groups that wanted to see the end of this mandate. The scientific elite is also out in force to criticise the outdoor mask mandate. It's useless, it's a bad joke, they say. This Tuesday, the use of masks outdoors was once again approved as compulsory. The government has pushed it through, guaranteeing the votes in the Congress of Deputies to maintain the obligation. The Minister of Health, Catalina Darius, assured that the measure is strictly temporary and that its withdrawal is closer. It will be for the time necessary until the indicators reach the appropriate levels. With all due caution, we have bent the curve of this sixth wave and we are in a phase of descent, she said. Experts consulted by News have been agreeing for months that this measure makes no sense and is not based on scientific grounds. We know that outdoors, the transmission of the virus is up to 15 or 20 times lower than indoors, says the epidemiologist and paediatrician Kiki Bassat. Others say that the measure is not only useless, but also counterproductive. So the majority of political parties here in Spain are against the mandatory use of masks outdoors. According to that article, the scientific community is also against it. So why does the government want to continue with this mandate? That's the question. And how did the government get it approved in the parliament yesterday? Well, they tied it together with another law that guarantees the increase of pensions according to CPI. So basically, if a politician voted against the mask mandate yesterday, they were also voting against that increase to pensions. And as one politician said, it was blackmail. Now, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez is on the road again, this time in the United Arab Emirates. And yesterday he said that the Spanish economy will grow above 5% this year and no longer insists on 7%. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has encouraged investment in Spain and the Emirates, although he has no longer insisted on the official forecast of 7% growth in 2022. He has limited himself to pointing out that most organisations predict growth above 5% in 2022, that is, somewhat higher than that recorded in 2021. The President made no mention of the government's official bet so far on a 7% rate after being strongly questioned as excessively optimistic by some 20 national and international research services. Nevertheless, Sánchez has claimed that Spain will be in the leading group of international economic growth and that it is the first country to sign the management contract and the European funds. So 5% economic growth for Spain this year and not the 7% predicted by the government. And another socialist prime minister saying that Spain is in the leading group of economic growth worldwide, similar to what Rodríguez Zapatero said back in 2007 when he said that Spain plays in the Champions League when it comes to economies.
Haciendo uso de un símil futbolístico, se podría decir que la economía española ha entrado en esta legislatura en la Champions League de la economía mundial.
And we all know what happened in 2008. Now it looks as though COVID certificates are going to be around for a while yet here in Europe, as apparently Brussels will extend the application of the COVID certificate until the summer of 2023. The European Commission plans to approve in the coming days, possibly this week, draft legislation to extend until the summer of 2023 the use of the COVID digital certificate, the health pass created to facilitate the movements of European citizens. The document, which certifies whether a person has been vaccinated, has overcome the coronavirus, or has tested negative in a diagnostic test, began to be used in July 2021 with a time frame limited to 1 year, as it was a measure linked to the health crisis, an extraordinary situation. But the EU executive sees the need to extend its use for a further 12 months, considering that, given the current context of the pandemic, it could continue to be a useful tool for member states, sources familiar with the proposal told El País. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation in Spain, and as we can see, the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days continues to go down and is now sitting just below 2,700. Hospital pressure remains high at 14.5%, and there are 18,087 COVID patients hospitalised around the country, and ICU pressure remains high at 21.7%, with 2,054 COVID patients still in ICU. And the government reported 408 COVID-related deaths yesterday. Now 2021 tourism data has been released, and Spain received 64% more tourists in 2021, but still far from pre-pandemic levels. Tourism managed to pull through in 2021 after receiving its worst blow in half a century in 2020 due to the pandemic. A total of 31.1 million tourists visited Spain last year, 64.4% more than the previous year, according to data from the National Statistics Institute published on Wednesday. However, recovery to pre-coronavirus crisis levels is still a long way off. If this figure is compared with that recorded in 2019, the number of tourists was 62.7% lower. The trend was similar with regard to the expenditure made by international tourists, which in the whole of last year amounted to 34.8 billion euros, 76% more than 2020, but 62.1% lower than in 2019. So the Spanish tourism industry recovering in 2021, but still a long way off pre-pandemic levels. And as I said yesterday, we'll soon get an idea of what 2022 is going to look like from a tourism perspective. Is it going to be a bumper year or not? Time will tell. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Cosido1. Does Spain think Brexit has cured the disabled? What a petty move by the authorities. Will they be removing disabled facilities at the airport as well? Yeah, Cosy, thanks for the comment, and basically I put your comment in today just to show how angry some Brexiteers still are. We saw a comment from somebody the other day complaining that their blue British disabled badge is no longer recognised here in Spain when they park their car. And from what I've read, Spain stopped recognising possessing these badges sometime last year, and British people living in Spain with one of these badges now have to apply for a Spanish one, which is not easy to do. So Spain doesn't think that Brexit has cured the disabled, and of course they won't be removing disabled facilities at the airport. And basically when I read comments like this one, I'm reminded of the expression that you can't have your cake and eat it too. One here from Preston: if socialist policies are making Spain better, lowest unemployment and better wages, why is the Vox Party growing in popularity? Yeah, Preston, thanks for the comment and good question. Why is the Vox Party growing in popularity? And the simple answer is, I think, that people are disenchanted with the current political situation, not only here in Spain, but in many other countries around the world. Vox is a political party that talks to a broad part of the population here in Spain, people that don't like immigration, people that don't like the Catalonian situation, people that are very traditional and want Spain to return to what it was back in its glory days. It also talks to the ultra-conservatives, people that are religious, people that are pro-family. So basically anybody who is not happy with the direction Spain is heading in hears the Vox dog whistle. I don't hear it, but a lot of people do. One here from Gabrielle: I find it sickening how some of these royals don't seem to know that noblesse doesn't just entitle you to everything, but you are obliged to fulfill moral obligations. Yeah, Gabrielle, thanks for the comment, and I think you meant to say nobleness and not noblesse in your comment, but let's be honest, if some members of certain royal families were noblesse, they wouldn't be in the strife that they are now. And you're right, if we are going to have royal families here in Europe, then they have to start setting high moral standards. But unfortunately, they do seem to be a group of entitled brats who think they can get away with anything. So off with their knobs. One here from Kelly: I have read the Spanish government website regarding entering Spain. We are from Canada. It does mention PCR and antigen tests. However, I did not clearly see it stated whether we actually need to have these said tests done to enter Spain. Can anyone please clarify that for me? Is it just the proof of vaccination and booster we have and the health control form we need to have upon entry, or do we in fact need to have these other tests done? Thanks in advance. Yeah, Kelly, thanks for the comment, and basically there's different rules in place depending on where you come from. Some people travelling to Spain need to show proof of vaccination. For example, I think people travelling from the UK need to prove that they have been vaccinated and have had a booster jab in the last 270 days. However, people travelling to Spain from other countries, for example European Union countries, can either have a COVID certificate or a negative test or proof that they have had COVID in the last 3 months or something like that in order to enter the country. So it's either one or the other. And I think from what I have read that Canada falls into that category, either one or the other. If you are not vaccinated, you need to have one of these negative tests done or proof that you have had COVID in the last 3 months. But again, don't quote me on that figure. So it's all very confusing, but basically there are different rules according to where you're coming from. One here from Dan: please do a short 30-second clip on Rafa and how the Spanish people feel about him. Thanks. Yeah, Dan, thanks for the comment, and don't worry, there is a video coming out soon in which I chat with Ivan about whether or not Rafa Nadal is a popular character here in Spain. So stay tuned. One here from Vigo: hi Stu, been waiting to go back to España for a while now. If things get better by the fall, I will definitely visit Galicia this year. I'm triple vaccinated, so not worried about mandates or requirements. Yeah, Vigo, thanks for the comment, and let's hope that you are able to get back to Galicia sometime this year. One of my favourite parts of Spain, and for anybody planning a visit to this country, I definitely recommend checking out that part of the country. And you're right, if you are triple vaccinated, you've got absolutely nothing to worry about when it comes to requirements, mandates, and things like that. And finally, one here from Gabriella: buenos dias, can't wait to travel to Spain in March. Gracias for your daily videos, they have helped us all. Gabriella, thanks for the comment and good luck with your upcoming trip to Spain in March. And glad that you like the videos, and I'm happy to have been of help. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.